What's going on YouTube? It's Giga here bringing you some more Series 13 battles. But today we are doing something a little bit different. Normally it is live commentary on Cart, but today we are doing post commentary on Showdown. So this was my match for the Little Root Lessons Draft League, and I thought it was really interesting, and I wanted to talk about it because I think there's some really cool interactions that ended up happening, and it's worth talking about. So let's quickly hop into game one. But before we talk about that, first, let's make sure we're on my side and talk a little bit about my team. So my team is Zacian, Charizard, Groudon, a Calyrex Shadow, Dialga, and Grimmsnarl. And so the reason behind this, one, is I have to give a big shout out to Hannah S. For those of you who don't know Hannah, she's incredible in so many different ways. And she created the archetype known as Sunny D, which was Dialga Groudon during Series 12, and I wanted to pay an homage to it in Series 13. So once again, we are using Groudon instead of Kyogre. Whoever brings this up, I'm going to be very upset. But definitely, leave it in the comments about how I should be playing more Kyogre, because I love Kyogre and I always find myself using Groudon. But the idea of the team is weakness policy Dialga, and the whole idea with it is with Grimmsnarl, right? Like, you're going to be super, super bulky, and nothing is really going to be able to KO you. And that was kind of the goal there. And then other than that, we have just really good stuff, right? We have Zacian. This is, because it's on Showdown, it is finally not an imprisoned Zacian. This is a more slow, bulky one that I really like. I think we have 3 attacks. I forget what I have on this. We do have 3 attacks. We don't have yes, we don't have substitute. You can tell that I clearly remember this. Specs, Calyrex Shadow, really there as well. Groudon with bulk up, just trying to be really strong. And then finally, we do have Charizard. I just wanted another member. I wasn't allowed to play Chansey. Ironically, Chansey would have been better, but here we are. So looking at my opponent's team, right, it is going to be a Melmetal, Magearna, Incineroar, a Kyogre, Amoonguss, and Calyrex. So this team wants to Trick Room, right? There is no other option that this team is going for. It is trying to set up that Trick Room and sweep from there. And so my main objective, right, is I need to stop Trick Room from happening. And my immediate thought, right, is you have 2 ways of getting that, right? You have Incineroar with Fake Out, or you have Amoonguss with Redirection. And so I think that my safest lead into this for game 1 is Dialga Charizard, just with the idea that I have the ability to pivot and adjust. So let's hop right in. I need to make sure music is off. Otherwise, this is going to be miserable for everyone. So we're gonna play. So they're gonna lead up Incin, Magearna, and I'm gonna lead Charizard, Dialga. And so my thought process here, right, is I'm going to switch out Dialga into into Groudon to set up the sun and just nuke this Magearna with what's it called? With a Gmax Wildfire. But the issue that we will soon see is the fact that Dialga is faster than Incineroar. So even though I set up correctly, they're going to be able to bring out their Kyogre, and in the rain, right, we're not doing that much. We still do a pretty significant chunk, right? We're doing over half to this Magearna, not to mention we have 3 turns of Wildfire. But this is going to be a really easy Trick Room, and now I'm in a really bad position, right? They have a full set of Trick Room. They have a Kyogre, with the rain up, and we have a max Charizard that's not going to like it, as well as a Groudon. So my thought process here, right, is let's just go for Protect. Let's stall out a turn of this Trick Room, just trying to get a little bit more Wildfire damage, especially because of the fact that, right, like Magearna is so low, and we see the Water Spout come out. Let's just quickly finish this turn. And so now I'm still in a tricky position. God, I don't know how to do post commentary on Showdown. And my thought process, right, is I want to get the rain gone, and I think Dialga can survive a hit. And then Charizard, I think at this point, has done its job, and it's just fodder. So I'm going to switch out into Dialga and say, hey, I have to give up my Charizard, as it is going to be a Helping Hand Origin Pulse, as that HP is getting low. Dialga, like I said, is going to survive here, but Charizard is not. And this gives us a pretty free switch in into Groudon, and now we're in a really bad spot, right? Because yes, we get the Sun Up, but they have a Calyrex and a Kyogre, both of which still have access to max. And there's really not much I can do, right? Like Calyrex probably cannot one-shot Dialga. Dialga should now live an Origin Pulse from Kyogre, but Groudon's just kind of a sitting duck here. And so what ends up happening is I decided to go, I think, on the offensive and just say, hey, I'm going to lose Groudon, but if you don't target me, it's fine. I don't think that critical hit mattered. And Origin Pulse, we do able to survive, and we go for the Flash Cannon to reveal that it is weakness policy on the Calyrex, which is huge for us, right? Like that's something that we can play around. We know it's not Babiri Berry, or it's something like a Focus Sash. So we have some really good knowledge going into game two. And hopping right back in, right at this point, Dialga is going to go down. We do bring out our last Pokemon, which is going to be the Zacian. And Zacian really not going to do much here, right? Like, especially because, yeah, I can go for Protect. You bring out the Incineroar to go for a Fake Out the subsequent turn. And this game is pretty much over, especially looking at how much that Max Quake did through Protect. And so now all I'm going to do, right, I'm going to forfeit. There's not much we can do. But we do have good information going into game two, right? Like, that worked out very well for my opponent. They 3-0'd me. And so I'm expecting something similar. And I asked myself going in, what didn't work? And what didn't work was Charizard, right? Charizard is just really bad in this matchup. And so the adjustment that I make with game two is I'm going to bring Calyrex and Dialga to say, hey, if you're going to do the same thing, right, I have the ability to not get fake outed on Calyrex, and I can immediately go for a Max Quake on from Dialga onto Magearna. And so that's my plan. Get rid of Magearna, stop the Trick Room. And my opponent, as the turn starts out, is going to make a really good play here, going for a Protect as we're going to double up into that slot. Astral Barrage, thanks to the specs, still going to do a really big chunk into Incineroar. And Quake, right, that does just so much damage. And so, yes, they're going to Throat Chop, and they're going to KO my Calyrex, but this is a fine position, right? Like, yes, I gave up Calyrex. So I probably didn't need to. But I have a free switch in. I have a very strong Dialga, and I'm basically saying, hey, you're not going to be able to set up Trick Room. And now I bring out Zacian, and this is an awesome position, right? Like, we have the ability just to Sacred Sword into the Incineroar slot, as well as go for a Quake into the Magearna slot, and there's really not much my opponent can do about that. And so that's just what we're going to do. They do make a very good switch out right into the Kyogre, just trying to tank that, but Sacred Sword still doing almost half, and Max Quake getting the knockout, which puts us in this really advantageous position, right? Because now we have +2 special defense versus a Kyogre, and this Calyrex really not going to be able to do too much into Dialga, and more importantly, my item hasn't been revealed yet. And so now this is a little bit of a tricky turn, right? And this is a pretty big turn. I think this is the important turn. And so my thought process, right, is they're going to switch out into Incineroar. And so I have a couple options, right? I can double up into the Calyrex. I can try and sped damage or do whatever. And my ultimate decision is I'm going to go for a Wormwind into the Kyogre slot and go for a Behemoth Blade into the Calyrex, right? This way, if you switch out Calyrex into the Incineroar, we get rid of your Kyogre. If you choose to leave both in, right, we are going to get your Calyrex an attack drop, and then, I mean, we also just KO it with Max Wormwind, or in this case, right, I was like, okay, I'm going to KO the Incineroar and going to let you get to +1. My opponent chooses to Protect with the Calyrex, which I think is a solid play, right? Trying to say, hey, I will have access to Fake Out. You're calling the double up into Calyrex, and that would have put you in a really fantastic spot. But instead, I do choose to Wormwind into the Incineroar, and now we're in a really good spot, right? Like, yes, we do not have Max, but yeah, we don't have Max, but we do have +2 special defense on a Dialga, and +1 special defense on the Zacian. That Calyrex has just gone for a Protect, and so I know that a double up will knock it out. We still have something in the back. I think it's Groudon. And so I say, hey, I'm gonna double up into the Calyrex, stop a Trick Room, because that is the scariest thing. And it's fine if you want to max your Kyogre. So Kyogre is going to get maxed here, right? We are faster with both things, so we will be able to get damage onto this Calyrex before it's able to move. And now, thanks to the bulk and the special defense boost, my Zacian is able to survive that hit. And at this point, it is just going to be a formality of cleaning up. And so I'm feeling really good about the adjustment that I made, right? We were obviously able to take that game pretty cleanly. We didn't even reveal the 4th Pokemon that we had. And so we're going into game 3, which I think is actually like one of the really interesting sets. And if you only watch one part of it, it definitely should be this set. And so my thought process going into this is, right, like Dialga was my win con. We need to just get it as bulky as we can and go from there. So I'm going to lead Dialga with Grimmsnarl. And my opponent makes a really good adjustment here by leading Amoonguss, right? We haven't seen Amoonguss this whole game. And this is a really bad position, right? Because we cannot stop the Trick Room now. And so I make A little bit of an interesting read, I think. I don't think it's the best play. I go for Protect on Dialga, and I go for a Spirit Break onto the Amoonguss. The thought process of that was, hey, I want to break a Sash. Um, it doesn't really matter if Magearna sets a Trick Room. So my whole play was, not the best. And so this Trick Room is going to get set up, and now we're in a really bad spot. I am going to switch out into Calyrex because I need to preserve my Dialga. And I just want to make Grimmsnarl set up screens, right? You have to target into the Calyrex slot. So that's fine, right? We have a guaranteed light screen. We do take not that much from Flash Cannon, which is really nice to see. And now my opponent going to switch out here, going into the Melmetal. I think probably sporing into Grimmsnarl would have been a little bit of a better spot. But we are luckily slower than the Magearna, able to fire off a Spirit Break. And now at -1 with the light screen, it's going to do pretty much nothing into Calyrex. And Calyrex, a little bit threatened here. I could have potentially stayed in, but I wanted to bring out Zacian. The whole idea of this was Zacian, right, is in a really good spot. It has a ton of pressure on the board. There's also 2 turns of Trick Room left. So we bring it in this turn. We have a guaranteed Protect the next turn. And now we have a Zacian outside of Trick Room, able to just put on a lot of pressure. And so I'm going to set up a Reflect here as we do take the double Iron Bash, not as well as I would have liked. But like I said, we do have a pretty free Protect here, just trying to stall out that last turn. As we go for a Thunder Wave, not really interesting. Yeah, it's not really interesting. It's more just to say, hey, we have Grimmsnarl. Let's try and do something with it. And paralyzing stuff is always really fun. And so now we are going to be out of Trick Room. And so now the Amoonguss, right, going to go for the Rage Powder. I just need to get damage onto this Amoonguss. And I know that I can't stop the Magearna Trick Room barring a Paralysis. So really good damage there. Grimmsnarl going to stay asleep, and Magearna sets up a Trick Room. And this is a really bad spot, right? There's 4 turns. Oh God, I tried to pause it. There's 4 turns of Trick Room left. And we are in bad shape. There is an Amoonguss. I'm going to stall by going for Protect for 1 turn. The Magearna going to target into the Grimmsnarl. We know that we can survive, and Grimmsnarl critically wakes up here. And we go for a Spirit Break. And this is, I think, the really important turn of this game. Because like I said, there are so many turns of Trick Room left. And I need to get rid of Amoonguss, or I'm going to auto lose. And so this is a really big play, especially because Grimmsnarl wakes up. Because what I'm able to do is I'm going to self T-Wave to stop the Spore, right? And this is awesome, right? It works out. And this is a really risky play, right? Because of the fact that I obviously can get paralyzed. There's no guarantee that I will ever attack. But if I get put to sleep, the game is 100% over. And so what I'm thinking, right, is I'm willing to take that chance, because if I can keep Zacian unasleep, awake, I have a shot at winning this game. Otherwise, there's nothing I can do. I cannot beat this Trick Room, and it's game over. And this really pays off, right? Because I'm able to get rid of the Amoonguss, and that is the biggest threat to my team gone, right? I can deal with the rest of this stuff pretty easily under Trick Room, but I need to get rid of that Amoonguss, and that's what I'm able to do, and that's why it was worth the risk. And so they bring out Calyrex here. Amoonguss going to go down. They get a free switch back into Melmetal. Melmetal going to Dynamax here. I'm going to Protect, some idea of just like stalling things out. Get a Paralysis on the Calyrex just because. And Grimmsnarl goes down here. But at this point, Grimmsnarl has done its job, right? It has completely gotten rid of, it has set up screens for me. It has got some Paralysis on. It saved my Zacian. And so now I'm more than happy to say, hey, Grimmsnarl, that's great. Give me a free switch into this Dialga. We do take a Steel Spike, doing a little bit of damage. Not the end of the world, but that's fine. Dialga going to come out here, and Dialga's in a great position, right? Like, sure, you got an attack boost on your Calyrex, but in order to deal, like, significant damage to my Dialga, you're going to have to trigger my weakness policy, and we have a Reflect Up. So I'm feeling really good here, and so my thought process, too, is, right, we have Calyrex in the back. I just want to deal as much damage to the Melmetal as possible, because it's not going to take that much from Astral Barrage. We do get a Lucky Para, as the Max Knuckle going to come out into Zacian, as we are able just to fire off a Wormwind onto the Melmetal. And so, yeah, we get paralyzed, but after we needed to. And now Zacian going to just hang out here. We do fire off a Steel Spike. I didn't expect it to get the critical hit onto this Calyrex. I genuinely thought it was going to live. So I had doubled up that slot. But at this point, Zacian also pretty useless. But the main idea, right, is I needed to stop a second Trick Room from going up. And that's why I doubled up into, or not a second, a third. If they got a third Trick Room up, there's really nothing I can do. So I was willing to say, hey, I'm going to chance your weakness policy. We end up getting paralyzed with Zacian, not a big deal, as the Steel Spike going to come out and pick up the knockout. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I can just sweep with Calyrex. I forgot Calyrex is asleep at this point, but Magearna going to come back out. And so my thought process is similar. I need to stop the Trick Room from going up. And so I'm more than comfortable just going for a Quake onto the Magearna. I probably should have targeted down the Melmetal in all honesty. But it's fine as the double Iron Bash going to take me out. And now, right, like my opponent hasn't seen that I have a weakness policy, and I also have a defense boost. And so it's going to work out really nicely as we do get a 2-hit KO with the Earth Power, but they're going to trigger my weakness policy with a Body Press. And with that, we are going to be able to take the set. So I thought this was a really interesting set, particularly because of that self-para on Zacian and how it put us in such an advantageous position. And the fact that like we saw that 2 Trick Rooms in this game, which is, pretty unheard of. It's very hard to like stall out one, but the fact that they got a second one and we were able to push through it, I think really said a lot. And I think it really, this like kind of shows a lot of my style. I do like to play very adaptive in terms of the fact that like, hey, I will completely switch up leads a lot. I'll switch up the 4 that I'm bringing pretty consistently. And I really like having that adaptability. And it paid off really well in terms of games 2 and 3, especially when I was playing at such a big deficit going from game 1. So I really wanted to show this off. Let me know if people like this type of content. It is, like I said, very different. We are doing post commentary, and it is on Showdown as opposed to on Cart. Also, if you're here, make sure to subscribe, right? We are working our way towards 1 billion subscribers, and we really can't get there without you. But that's all I got for today. And with that, until next time, I hope all of you are wonderful, and I'll see you then.